You have one new message. Translating. Disney and Pixar's Hoppers is now available on Disney+.
You could say that again.
Critics are calling it Pixar's funniest movie ever and a wildly entertaining ride. Blizzard Potato. It's certified fresh and verified hot.
Now we party.
This is incredible!
Wow, I am clearing the rest of the day.
Disney and Pixar's Hoppers, now available on Disney+. Rated PG.
High on the Chiltern Hills, close to the village of Shillington, stands an ancient burial mound known as Knocking Knoll. For generations, local people have claimed that strange sounds could sometimes be heard coming from within the earth itself. 3 loud knocks, clear and deliberate, apparently coming from somewhere beneath the hill. Whether those sounds were ever real is impossible to know today, but the story has survived for centuries and remains one of the most curious pieces of folklore attached to any prehistoric monument in southern England. Knocking Knoll lies east of Pegston Common Farm, close to the Bedfordshire and Hertfordshire border. It occupies high ground overlooking a landscape that has been travelled for thousands of years. Nearby runs the ancient Icknield Way, one of Britain's oldest roads, following the chalk ridges long before the arrival of the Romans. Even today, the surrounding countryside feels old. The hills rise gently above the fields, and there are places where it is easy to imagine generations of people passing through the same landscape, leaving little trace behind them. Among those traces is the mound itself. At first glance, Knocking Knoll appears unremarkable. It is simply a rise in the ground, softened by centuries of weather and farming. Yet archaeologists recognise it as a prehistoric burial monument. Although its exact origins remain uncertain, it is believed to date back thousands of years. Earlier writers suggested that what survives today may once have formed a part of a larger Neolithic long barrow, while others have described it as a bowl barrow, altered by later cultivation. Whatever its precise classification, there is little doubt that the mound was built by prehistoric communities as a place of burial and remembrance. The site attracted the attention of antiquarians during the 19th century. In 1856, William Ranson of Hitchin partially excavated the mound. Unfortunately, like many excavations of that period, the work was poorly recorded by modern standards. Artifacts were reportedly recovered, including pottery, but detailed descriptions of the findings have not survived. Whatever was discovered inside the mound more than a century and a half ago remains largely unknown. Its position on the landscape was almost certainly deliberate. Burial mounds were often placed where they could be seen from considerable distances. They served not only as graves, but also as markers of identity and ancestry. The people who built them wanted them to endure. Thousands of years later, Knocking Knoll still stands where they left it. Yet it is not archaeology that most people remember. It's the knocking. The tradition appears to have been well established by the 19th century, though it may be much older. Local people claimed that sounds could sometimes be heard coming from within the mound itself. Not random noises carried on the wind, but distinct knocks, as though someone beneath the earth was attempting to attract attention. One of the oldest versions of the story tells of an old man imprisoned inside the hill. According to the legend, he remains trapped beneath the mound and occasionally knocks from within, hoping that someone might hear him and release him. It is a simple tale, but one that clearly captured the imagination of local people. As the years passed, the story began to change. By the late 19th century, another version was being told. In this account, the figure inside the mound was no longer an old man, but an ancient British chieftain. The chieftain was said to have been buried there with treasure, and the mysterious knocking was explaining the sound of him striking his treasure chest to make sure his riches remained safe. A similar version described not a chieftain, but a warrior in armour. Once again, treasure featured prominently in the story, and once again, the knocking was said to come from the buried figure beneath the hill. The details differed, but the central idea remained remarkably consistent. Something was inside the mound, and from time to time, it made itself known. One of the most interesting accounts was recorded by the Victorian folklorist, W.B. Gerrish. While collecting local traditions, he spoke with a man named Mr. Aylott, who was familiar with the legend. Mr. Aylott claimed that he had met someone who personally heard the sounds for themselves. According to the account, 3 distinct and loud knocks were heard coming from the mound. No further details were recorded. We are not told precisely when it happened, who the witness was, or what circumstances surrounded the event. By modern standards, it is frustratingly vague, yet it remains significant because it demonstrates that at least some people believe the story was based on genuine experiences rather than simple folklore. The report suggests that the knocking was not merely a tale told to children. Adults discussed it seriously enough for it to be recorded by researchers interested in local traditions. Of course, there are many possible explanations. Ancient earthworks can behave in unexpected ways. Sound travels strangely across open countryside. Temperature inversions can carry noises over considerable distances. Wildlife can produce sounds that are surprisingly difficult to identify, especially at night or during periods of poor visibility. There is also the simple possibility that the stories grew from coincidence. A few unexplained noises, repeated often enough in conversation, can become part of local folklore. Once people begin expecting to hear something unusual, ordinary sounds can take on new meaning. Yet none of those explanations completely removes the appeal of the story. There is something undeniably compelling about the image itself. A solitary burial mound standing on a hillside, an ancient grave whose builders vanished thousands of years ago, and from somewhere beneath the earth, 3 deliberate knocks. The legend also reflects a much older belief found throughout Britain. For centuries, people associated burial mounds with hidden treasure. Ancient barrows, cairns, and earthworks were often believed to contain gold, weapons, or valuable objects guarded by the dead. Sometimes these stories were inspired by reality. Archaeological excavations have occasionally uncovered grave goods buried alongside important individuals. Over time, those discoveries helped fuel the belief that every ancient mound concealed hidden riches. As a result, many prehistoric monuments became linked to stories of sleeping kings, buried warriors, and supernatural guardians. Knocking Knoll sits comfortably within that tradition. The tale of a warrior protecting treasure may be folklore, but it is folklore with deep roots in British storytelling. Even the name itself may have played a role. Many people assume that Knocking Knoll received its name because of the mysterious sounds. However, some researchers have suggested that the name may derive from an older Celtic word relating to a small hill or mound. If that is true, The similarity between the word and the sound of knocking may simply have encouraged later generations to create an explanation. It would not be the first time a place name inspired a legend. Whatever the truth, the story has endured far longer than any explanation. Today, there is no evidence that a warrior lies buried beneath the mound guarding treasure. There is no evidence that an old man remains trapped underground. Archaeology offers no support for either claim. But folklore does not survive because it can be proven. It survives because people continue telling the story. And that is exactly what has happened here. For hundreds of years, Knocking Knoll has remained part of the landscape and part of the local memory. Generations have looked at the mound and wondered who was buried there. Some claim to hear knocks coming from within. Others simply repeated the story to those who came after them. Whether those sounds were real is something we will probably never know. But perhaps that uncertainty is what keeps the legend alive. The mound still stands on the hillside, overlooking the ancient routes that have crossed these hills for thousands of years. The people who built it are gone. Their names have been forgotten. Their beliefs lost to time. Yet the stories remain. And somewhere within those stories, if local tradition is to be believed, 3 knocks still echo from beneath the hill. Thank you for listening to Ghost Tales by the Fireside. If you enjoy these stories, you can support the podcast and get access to MP3s over on buymeacoffee.com/Ghost Tales. They're £1.50 each, or free if you're a member. Or you can find everything at ghosttales.co.uk and follow Facebook and Instagram at Ghost Tales Podcast.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The empty seat. Who is actually just that, an empty chair in your office because you couldn't find someone to fill it. So it just sat there costing you money with all its fancy ergonomic features. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can make it easy to fill that seat with the right candidate. With nearly 60% of businesses finding someone to interview in the first week alone. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.